Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Innovative Benefits webinar series with today's session on financial and retirement benefits that matter. My name is Becky Reich. I'm the Director of Quality for Youth Worker Wellbeing at Indiana Youth Institute. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're grateful to connect with an awesome community of Indiana youth workers committed to meeting the needs of our youth. For those of you not familiar with IYI, our mission is to improve the lives of all Indiana children by strengthening and connecting the people, the organizations, and communities that are focused on kids and youth. Today's agenda includes introductions, so feel free to drop those in the chat and say hello. Some housekeeping to help with the session, then we'll jump into today's topic presented by Purple Ink. We'll have time for Q&A, followed by connecting you to additional no-cost resources provided by our Youth Worker Wellbeing Project that will additionally support your team in organizational well-being. We'll wrap up with a session evaluation and get you on your way. So quick overview, the Youth Worker Wellbeing Project is a collaborative statewide effort to improve the lives of Indiana's youth workers and organizations to more effectively work with youth. The success of this project is built on the foundation of collaboration, and we're grateful for our partners at Indiana After School Network, IARCA Institute for Excellence, Indiana Youth Services Association, and Marion County Commission on Youth. Before we begin, a few pointers that will help you engage today. Any technical issues, use the chat feature to send us a message and we'll help you out. You can also use this feature to engage with myself or the presenter or others that are in attendance today. And we encourage you to use the Q&A feature to ask questions and upvote any that you want to draw attention to there. And then we will wrap up today's presentation with an evaluation and a follow-up email that will include today's slide deck and evaluation link. We appreciate you taking time to let us know your thoughts about today's presentation. If you don't get that follow-up email, be sure to check your spam folder in case it got caught there. And like many of our webinars, today's webinar will be posted on our website if you'd like to either revisit it later or share it with others. So our Innovative Benefits webinar series purpose is really to, it's designed for youth-serving organizations for leaders who are wearing an HR hat or benefits hat, or for actual human resources professionals to learn about the latest trends in employee benefits so that you can gain no cost or cost-effective tools to boost your employee retention, satisfaction, and overall well-being. Our presenter today is Courtney McAuliffe, Vice President of Consulting Services at Purple Ink. Courtney is an experienced human resources professional with a demonstrated history in HR for over 15 years in different industries, including hospitality to healthcare and nonprofit sector, with a focus in recruiting, retention, people development, workforce readiness, and employee engagement. You're in good hands today. When she isn't working, Courtney likes to enjoy the many state parks and trails with her husband and dog and spend time with family. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Courtney.
Perfect. Thank you so much for everybody for being here. Becky, the slides are not up on my end yet. Would you be able to share those, or do you want me to pull it up on my end?
I can forward them if needs be. Yep. Are you not seeing them at all?
No, they're not visible.
Let's see what's happening.
I apologize.
No, you're fine.
Oh, it looks like Erica can see them, but they're not on my end for some reason. They were when we were in the test mode, but not in the live mode now, which is absolutely fine. I have them in front of me, so I just wouldn't be able to control them.
Courtney,
Okay.
I think
Well, yeah.
let's go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, Courtney, let's go ahead and have you share.
Oh yeah.
That way you can control the slides. And then Becky, you'll just have to go back at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. Sorry about that, everyone.
No worries.
All right. Everybody see that okay? Okay. Well, I am excited to be here to talk about planning for retirement, how we can make retirement conversations kind of made simple. I know a topic like retirement doesn't feel all that simple most of the time. And as Becky shared, I've worked in a lot of different industries from nonprofit to healthcare to hospitality. And so in all of those industries, we have a wide range of compensation levels and financial security levels. And so I was excited to be able to talk to you all today about this topic. You may already have retirement plans in your organizations. You may be thinking about starting one, or you may be here to assess how can you make it a little bit more approachable or communicate it differently with your team. We will talk about all of that. So the first step is really just thinking start small, stay steady. That is my retirement philosophy. I think a lot of times we think, oh, we can't think about retirement right now. That's decades away. Or it feels a little bit intimidating to think about retirement, in that we know we maybe need a larger amount when we're ready to retire. But right now, our focus is what's in front of us. What are the financial strains, financial burdens, financial needs that we have today? And so, honestly, the truth around retirement is making sure that we are starting small, we're maintaining steady contributions so that even $10 a paycheck can start to add up over time. And so, not waiting until we quote unquote feel ready or feel closer to retirement, but what are some things we can do today that will hopefully pay off in the long run? So, this, next 45 minutes or so is really a chance to explore some practical, some doable steps that you and your team, whether your organization again already has something in place or is looking to start one. Please ask questions as we go along. We'll be watching the chat. We may hold questions to the end or we may pause right in the moment, but make sure that you're asking questions so that we can learn from each other as we're going through today's session. And so a couple quick objectives as we are going to, learn different retirement plans or retirement types. We'll talk about a couple different ways that you may be able to set up your retirement or look to improve or enhance your retirement plan. We'll be sure to talk through, some simple ways to talk to your team about getting started. Again, even if it's just a few dollars, those dollars can start to add up as we get closer to our retirement goals or our retirement timelines. And then we'll also talk about strategies or resources that you as, HR leaders, managers, or maybe you're managing your 401k plan for your organization can lead to in order to get some additional support or additional resources. But really, the goal of today is to also talk about or think about how we can connect retirement conversations in an ongoing workplace practice. So utilizing different mechanisms, different communication modes, so that it becomes part of a financial culture within your organization, not something we talk about maybe just during open enrollment time or when somebody is enrollment eligible, but really part of an ongoing continued discussion. Okay. So one thing I get asked, particularly from some of our smaller organizations that we support from a client standpoint, or from organizations that maybe have a wider range of compensation levels, is why do we even offer retirement as an organization? And I think this is something that's really helpful for organizations that have retirement plans to highlight their why as to why it was important that resources and energy be spent around retirement plans, because they do have an important benefit and impact to your team. And the first is that you may be able to, really attract talent and retain that talent. So in today's job market, we know it's tough out there. We're competing over a lot of similar individuals that may have 3 or 4 different organizations that they could be looking at in terms of an organization or in terms of employment options. And so being able to say, hey, we believe in financial well-being at our organization. We have a retirement option for you. You know, it's not required, but it's an option. And it's something that we're going to continue to talk about and provide resources around how we can support your contributions or your engagement into that plan. If you as an organization have something like an employer match, and what I mean by an employer match is that you may say, if me as the employee contributes, you know, up to 3% of my annual compensation, the company will match that 3% or match a level of that percentage. And so essentially that becomes a free money tool that can be used as a reason to retain then that great talent that you attracted. So having it attracts, having reasons to kind of maintain the contributions and help retain your talent. It also can boost employee engagement and boost loyalty. So, you know, we know as employers or as managers, we probably hear from our team often that financial stress is a real distraction in the workplace. It's a real stress, it's a real strain on our team members. And so anything we can do that can help reduce that stress, either in the immediate or in the long term, is something that we then hope boosts the productivity and overall team morale. And then again, just having a 401k and having these continued conversations around retirement, savings, strategies helps create a financial well-being. And then we hope in return creates that level of stability and commitment on the team. So in the retirement plan, we know again, there's that competitive edge in hiring, but there's also a level of tax advantage for employers at times. And so some of us may be nonprofits. And so, you know, we have different levels of tax incentives. And so this is an area that I would absolutely encourage you to talk to your broker, your 401k broker, or your 401k plan sponsor, so that you're able to get an understanding of what these benefits could be. Sometimes they're small, but they're a way to help offset some of the startup costs if you don't already have a plan, so that it adds a level of incentive to our employers as well as the employees for contributing. But of course, we also say that, you know, having a conversation around financial well-being shows we care about your future. It's not just the work that you do today. It's not just the specifics around your day-to-day tasks, your day-to-day responsibilities, but we care about you as a whole person, right? And so we want to ensure that you have the stability you need today and tomorrow. And this helps build that trust and really strengthens your company culture around just financial well-being. And a lot of us tend to have well-being programs. And a lot of times in our well-being programs, we think about things like walking challenges or reimbursement for gym memberships or things about kind of the physical health well-being. But bringing in conversations around retirement plans and long-term financial strategies help kind of round out that program into a little bit of a financial well-being program as well. We know that and research shows us actually that when we have retirement plans, there is what we call an ROI or return on investment. So sometimes organizations may say, you know, we're not going to dabble in the 401k program. We know that there may be some cost associated to maintaining the program. There may be some costs associated to setting up the program. There's definitely a time associated to it from, you know, the HR standpoint or the program kind of internal sponsor. But like we just said on previous slides, we know that we can have reduced turnover if it allows a level of retention with our team. We know that a more engaged workforce tends to be a more productive workforce, which is pulling more into the organization and allowing them to pour into the company a little bit more. And then what I said before about the IRS tax credits for small employers to starting a plan is something that really helps a level of return on investment. And and then if you layer in the opportunity for a match, then that even intensifies that level of investment, retention, and longevity with your team. And so what does this look like in terms of, really dollar to dollar? And so, we know that there's a cost to turnover. We know that there's a cost to maintaining a program. These are rough generalizations, so it's going to vary depending on organization, level of position, and how much they're contributing and how much your match is. So this is kind of a general example. But if you were, let's say, estimating about 30 to 50% of an entry level employee it takes to replace them. So this is kind of our standard, our entry level, our kind of frontline team. If we were going to replace them, it would take about 30 to 50% of their salary. And so then it goes all the way up to potentially 150% if you're looking at maybe mid-level to upper level management, and even more when we start to get into our executive levels. So let's say you lose an employee that's making $40,000. It could take about $15,000 to $20,000 in recruitment cost, training, loss of productivity to replace them. Now, if we wanted to retain them, but maybe pour into their 401k a little bit, let's say 3% of their payroll. So 3% of a $40,000 annual salary is in that kind of 1,200 proactive investment. And so versus that $15,000 to $20,000 to replace. I'm not sitting here saying that just by simply having a 401k, you're not ever going to have turnover. But if you can increase the chance that you'll have that longevity with an individual, you want to try to balance that return on investment and make sure that you are pouring your funds into the right places. We know that funds are scarce and it feels like they get scarcer by the day. And so making sure that we are investing in the right places, like offering a retirement plan or finding means to offer a match so that it allows an incentive for retainment, could reduce that turnover and really boost your retention. And so I had mentioned earlier that I take a couple minutes to talk about just retirement counts in general. So now that we talked about why the topic is important, what are some of the accounts that you could offer? And there are a variety of different types of accounts. And this is another area where I would encourage you to talk to a broker to help set this up or talk about what makes sense for you. But really, if you don't already have a plan, start with some of the basics. Don't worry about getting kind of too fancy or too intricate. Having the plan is the first step. You can always elevate your plan. You can always make upgrades and changes as you have a little bit more kind of stability in your plan and comfort in navigating it. But some of the more common options would be a standard 401k. This is most common and often used in, private companies or companies that maybe operate as a private entity. Doesn't mean that they're not a nonprofit. It just means that they maybe aren't funded by maybe a governmental entity, so to speak. And so when a lot of times people will say retirement plan and kind of automatically think about a 401k, or they may be using the term 401k pretty loosely. There are also things called 403Bs. Those are pretty common in things like schools, hospitals, nonprofits. You could also have what is a simple IRA. Simple IRAs are designed to be a little bit more simple by name, less administrative overhaul, but still allows employees to contribute through their individual contributions, but do also allow a match option as well. All of these options offer a match, could offer an automatic contribution where you say employees are automatically going to be enrolled, or it could be an opt-in type of a program. Your plan and your broker would be able to help set up some of the specifics around that plan. And so when talking about your 401k or your 403b or the simple IRA, it's really thinking about how can you put money in to gain some interest over time. It's not only your contributions, but it's also thinking about things like compound interest. This in my brain is always feels a little bit like magic money. I don't really have to do anything to achieve it. I put in even that $10 a paycheck, and it starts to grow over time, not only because every paycheck gets 10 more dollars, but as that fund grows, it starts to gain more in interest, starts to gain more in kind of that compound growth. So they say a good rule of thumb is that every 7 years or so, what you're putting in would double. And so that's what they kind of dub the rule of 72, meaning if you invest about $1,000 kind of at 10%, it doubles at every 7 years. So somebody that, maybe starts investing at age 25 would have double the amount of their investment by the time they reach 35. This is a great thing to highlight that the money grows itself, and also even starting small helps to grow the funds over time. So you don't have to wait until you're able to invest large amounts of money, but really capitalize in small amounts do grow over time. And so here's what that compound growth really looks like. So you can see kind of if somebody starts at $25 $20 a week at age 25 versus if they started a little bit more, but at a later date. So the earlier you can start, even if it's a smaller amount, does show that it grows over time. Now I'm going to pause here because sometimes when I'm talking with employees and when I've previously been responsible for our 401k plan, this is where folks would tell me, well, I'm already behind the eight ball, so I'm just not going to worry about it. Starting today will help for tomorrow. And so building these conversations into conversations with your employees means that starting at any time, the today helps more than where if they started tomorrow. Okay. And so then here's where, we know that matches can really incentivize starting to contribute. Essentially, it's that free money. It's that extra paycheck. I always tell my employees, if there is a match, you don't want to leave money on the table. So even if you are kind of starting at that entry level for the match, it's still getting you free money. If we found $20 on the street, we would pick it up, right? We would not walk past it. And so thinking of an employer match is the same type of a thought process. It is also a really powerful feature in a retirement plan to help kind of tease or incentivize your employees to wanting to invest or to just be thinking about why it is important to invest. So thinking about that free money, it's essentially a bonus, it's a surplus, it's an additive to what they maybe were thinking about contributing, but felt that maybe other things needed to take the priority or other things needed to take the precedent, or they didn't quite have the right time to invest, or they were already too late to start investing. It's never too late to get some of those free funds. And so even putting in that small amount to get the match is a great financial move that you can be encouraging your team members to be participating in. And really, all this does is help us plan for the long term. I get a lot of questions as a consultant. Should we have an automatic enrollment or an automatic increase in our 401k? My response back is first, you know your team better than I do as a consultant. And hopefully that's what your broker is also saying. If you have an automatic enrollment, and what I mean by that is once they hit their enrollment timeline, so maybe that's 30 days, 90 days, 1 year of employment, they would automatically be contributing into the 401k. Some organizations feel that this is helpful because it allows the employees to still opt out if they don't think that that's the right move for them. But we know sometimes out of sight, out of mind. And so if it's an auto enrollment, sometimes it then means that folks are going to opt in at times where maybe they wouldn't normally have opted in. You can also put what we call an auto increase into your 401k plan, or you could have this as an option. So I do encourage employees to think about selecting that auto increase feature, which means maybe every year an additional 1% would be added to their 401k. How I talk to my teams about this would be, usually, and not always, right? But usually we have some sort of a cost of living increase in our organizations. We maybe have a performance increase in our organizations, maybe a bonus opportunity in our organizations. And so if that 1% increase is aligning at the same time that you're getting some of those annual compensation increases, it's a win-win. You get an increase to your daily take home, but also an increase to your 401k. So before you get used to having that full amount of the increase, pay yourself first, which is essentially contributing to that 401k. Now, with those auto increases or auto enrollments, communication is imperative. You want to make sure that your team knows that this is something that's automatically going to be happening for them. So, A, there's no confusion. B, there's transparency. So they do know how to opt out if that's not the best thing for their financial needs at that moment. And 3, they know where to go to see that that auto is happening, not happening, and so forth. So just being really clear about that option and making sure that they understand would be helpful. Okay. I love that folks are on today's call because it shows that you have an invested interest in not only 401k for yourself, hopefully, but for how to converse with your employees about it. There are a lot of other resources that you are able to pull from. Your 401k provider and brokers often have tools that can be available to you as kind of the plan manager, but also to your employees. So sometimes they're willing to come do retirement education. Sometimes they're willing to do kind of one-on-one meetings as like a financial advisement to your employees. So you're not the one making the suggestions on how they're contributing those funds, but a knowledge professional is doing some of that guidance. They also can maybe participate in open enrollment meetings or scheduled kind of revisit a 401k so that there's continued conversation and training around how to maximize that 401k. So a lot of times providers will offer things like webinars. A lot of 401k programs have a very valuable tool like a calculator right on their kind of desktop. So you don't have to be a member already or already contributing to see what it would look like if I put in just $10 a paycheck, what my current age is, when I hope to retire, and see how that would potentially grow. I think slides and images like that can be so impactful to our employees when we're talking about, hey, $5 a paycheck, $10 a paycheck adds up. And so it doesn't have to be 50% of your check. And so they can really see that come to life. So take advantage of those resources. Many of them are free and most of them are already built into your plan and your program. And then, I alluded to this a few slides ago, but making sure that retirement is tied into your well-being program. Thinking about well-being beyond just a gym membership or the physical well-being, but that financial health links to our overall healthy well-being. And so retirement isn't only about the future, but it's also about thinking about kind of the overall well-being today. And so just like looking at our mental health, our physical health, our work-life integration and balance, our financial health is something that really matters as well. And so having our employers, our managers, our HR, having these lunch and learns, webinars, access to that coaching, it helps normalize talking about money. Sometimes, and we, this is a private, right? It's a private or personal action, but talking about the ways that our personal actions can impact our well-being, help normalize the conversations and create a real safe environment, a supportive space for employees to learn. When I was in school, I did not have classes on retirement or on financial well-being, and I don't even know that I knew that terminology when I was finishing school. And so bringing that into the workplace, I think really rounds out a lot of the company cultures and missions that you have externally, and brings some of that philosophy into your team as well. I really loved this quotation from Rob Berger. He's a finance guru, a securities attorney. I'm not really familiar with him other than kind of this quote, but I really liked it in that financial freedom is more of a journey than a destination. So we know there's a lot of stress and strain that pulls on our team members, maybe pulls on ourselves about how we're going to utilize our financial resources. And so retirement is one part of that financial wellness. And so making sure that we're thinking about our 401k program or a retirement program as kind of a journey. It's not just an end result, but it's how we're going to get to that end result, how we're going to get to that path that is really important. Okay. And so I know that our organizations that offer 401k programs, and again, I'm using that loosely, you might have a 403b, a simple IRA, or one of the other options, but our retirement is often talked about in recruiting. It's often talked about in onboarding, but then we tend to not bring it up again. And so it's important that we revisit the offerings of the 401k pretty often. So when you're onboarding with a new organization, you're taking in a lot of information. You're taking information around maybe your health benefits, your paid time off. You're learning just your actual role, right? You're learning where the break room is or where all of the locations are. And so sometimes things like a retirement kind of go out by the wayside because we are taking in so much information. So it's important to continue to revisit the 401k program, not only with those that aren't contributing, but with those that are as well. So highlighting, do you have an annual increase, or highlighting how they can continue to grow their 401k? Highlighting that if they did not contribute right when their enrollment opportunity presented itself, when can they? When can they start? How can they increase? And really talking about kind of the full benefit of that 401k or that plan or that retirement program. When I was managing an HR department, I tended to bring this in as part of my annual open enrollment program. So if I was talking about how our health benefits were renewing, I also then talked about the 401k plan. So I used open enrollment as kind of a benefit 101. The bulk of the action in that time was making sure that you had the right benefit plan selected, what changes were happening, and so forth. But I also took about 10 minutes to make sure I revisited 401k, how to increase, what the benefits of the program were, and then also tied in what were some of the additional conversations that they could be available for. So are there trainings that our broker offered? Were there webinars? Did they have access to a financial advisor? Those sort of things were really helpful to remind them in that moment. My open enrollment tended to correlate with our performance reviews, and so the potential increase. And so it really correlated with a great conversation timing. So you pick the timing that works best in your organization, but that's an area that I did bring that in. And so I've talked a little bit about matching in today's conversation. And so I did want to pause and also talk about a term called vesting. And so what vesting means is it's how long you need as an employee to stay working for the employer in order to get kind of full benefit of the match. So there's a few different vesting ways that you could set it up. Vesting can be utilized as a kind of a budgetary option for the organization because it shows how long they need to pay out different levels of contributions. But it can also be utilized as a retention model. And so one vesting option is kind of a time-based vesting. And that's really, might be, you might be immediately vested. You might have to work with the organization for 3 years. And so, or 5 years, 6 years. Same with kind of milestone, or maybe there's a hybrid vesting. So maybe you have a match that they get immediately, but maybe you do things like a profit share or a bonus potential into the 401k that maybe has a different level of vesting. And so that kind of ties in a level of retention. This would be something you'd want to have really spelled out in your plan. And this is something that is really good to revisit, remind, communicate, and educate your team around. There's no one size fits all. It really depends on kind of what your plan, philosophy, or needs are. But I wanted to make sure that that was communicated in today's conversation. Okay. So I want to pause. I'm going to do a couple just like check-ins on how what we've talked about so far. So feel free to put. I'm going to ask a couple true or false questions. Feel free to write it down on yourself, put it in the chat. But just a way that we can think about these are common questions or common things that maybe our employees would come to us when talking about 401k. And so the first is, I need a lot of money before I'm able to start my 401k retirement. I need to have a base amount that I have to put in before I'm able to start. Do we think that's true or false? Yeah, false. I think this is something that we tend to fall back on as an easy reason for us not to engage in our retirement plans. We can always increase, right? You don't have to continue to only put in $5 a paycheck, but $5 a paycheck at least starts that process. And so really making sure that we're being intentional about our retirement journey and starting now or starting as soon as we might feel comfortable to do so, regardless of how much we could put in. Great job. And so another one would be if I kind of missed the start, it's too late. So I've been working with the company for 10 years now. I've missed my opportunity to enroll, or I missed that first open enrollment opportunity. And so that ship's passed. I can no longer contribute to my company's 401k. Or I was told to put into my 401k when I was 25. I'm now 45. And so I guess that ship has sailed for me. True or false? Yeah, false. It is never too late. And so, go back to that kind of compound interest slide that we highlighted earlier, and that ideally, yes, sooner is better. But even if you're waiting and you're starting today, and today's the opportunity that you have to enroll in your 401k, or your employees have to enroll in a 401k, you want to make sure that today is still better than tomorrow. Yesterday may have been preferable, but yesterday has passed. Today is the opportunity that's right in front of us. Okay. How about true or false? My retirement plan is only for retirement. Is this true or false? Yeah. Yeah. This was a little bit of a trick question, and it's partially true, right? The goal of our retirement plan is for that retirement. But there are some things that we'll talk about in just a couple of slides that can create a little bit of a safety net for your team members to help get over some of the common barriers that we have for why our team maybe doesn't invest in their retirement. Great job. So a couple common barriers I hear when I'm having conversations with our team members around why don't you contribute to the 401k, or there's free money you're leaving on the table, or we'd really like to get 401k enrollment up. Sometimes is I don't earn enough. And we talked about that already, that even $5 or $10 can really grow a sizable amount to our 401k. Some people may say, well, I'll just wait till later, or, ugh, my brain is a little bit frazzled right now, or I'm pulled, or I'm strained. And so this is a tomorrow Courtney problem, not a today Courtney problem. And we know from some of those earlier slides that, the cost of waiting can be really huge and detrimental to our employees. And not only if you don't have a match, maybe you don't have a match, or maybe they can't give enough to take advantage of the match. Just looking at that compound interest knows that they're not earning all of their full potential. But then this last one goes and speaks to kind of the previous trick question that I had in there, is that I may need the money, right? I would love to think about retirement, but the truth of the matter is I may have upgrades I need to make to my house. Childcare continues to get more expensive. Cost of gas is going up. I don't quite have a large savings account. And so I may need access to those funds. And that is a real stress that some of us on this call may be facing, or our employees may be facing. And so here are a couple safety nets that you can build into your retirement plan. Many of your 401k or your 403 plan, your 403b plans already have these built in. So if you're not sure, a great action item to take away from today is to contact your broker or your plan advisor to see what some of these safety nets may be in there. But some plans have loans. Those loans mean that you can borrow against your individual balance and then repay that loan through your payroll. So what that looks like is, I know that I maybe need $500 for an emergent bill. And each type of loan is going to have different requirements, but there are sometimes health bill loans, there are sometimes emergent loans, but each of them require kind of some different paperwork. So again, get with your broker. But I may say, hey, I need to borrow, I'm already putting in $10 a paycheck. I need to borrow $500 from my 401k. And to repay that, I'm going to actually put in $20 a paycheck until I repay that loan. I got access to immediate funds that were faster and larger than if I wasn't paying in $20 a paycheck. But I am going to pay back what I had borrowed from my 401k so that I don't have any sort of withdrawal penalty. We know that there's kind of tax benefits to having a 401k and contributing to that. And so if you borrow against it, in order to not get that penalty, you have to repay. Most of the time, it's easy to set that up. You would set it up in payroll as a kind of a special deduction or a special withdrawal. You put the dates in the system, or you set up a reminder for yourself for when those stop. And your 401k or 403b plan will automatically have kind of what's needed or those steps. You can also do a hardship withdrawal that shows, hey, you had an unexpected life hardships and you need to withdraw the funds for an emergency. Depending on the hardship, they may not have to then pay that back. So some is the loan, I have an unexpected bill, some maybe have an unexpected hardship. And so again, there's different varies of what is needed for each of those. You do want to utilize these carefully because you want to still be kind of planning for long term. Anytime we withdraw, anytime we take a loan, it does kind of reduce sometimes that long-term growth, or reduces the interest that we're gaining. However, it's a great balance to the barrier of I may need those funds. And both of these options showcase that you still have access to those funds. It just helps you save towards your future. And if you don't need those funds, they keep growing. But if you do, you have the access to them. Okay. And then I think it's good to kind of look at what the safety net kind of access versus cost would look like. When dealing with finances, I think anytime we can showcase it in some sort of visual understanding, it's helpful, because what we have as a visual right now is knowing how much are in our specific accounts, or what our monthly bills are, or what our monthly needs are. But when we can showcase it as kind of what the emergency savings or what the loan may look like or what the withdrawal may look like, they may be putting in into kind of their immediate savings, but we can see that if they put into a retirement, that really kind of pays off over a long term in a different way than maybe what some of our individual savings account may be. But again, please, please, please get with your broker. There are a couple action items that I would encourage you all to take today. I would encourage you to think about your own retirement. Are there things that you can be doing for your individual retirement? Your amounts, can you increase? If you are kind of managing this from a company standpoint, if you don't already have a match, is it time to start talking about that? And what does that look like? How would you be able to have that happen? And what would you need to take into place, and what type of a match makes sense? And in that action item, think about the vesting process as well. Think about what needs to be done in terms of a retention, a budget, and really how you want to set up that program. And then, look about what provider resources you have access to. So from your broker, from the person that's managing or running your plan, what are some of the training tools that are available to you as the maybe program manager for your organization, but then also for those that are participating or thinking about anticipating in your 401k. Think about how you can pull retirement and financial well-being into different conversations. So maybe it's at open enrollment, maybe it's at annual review time, maybe it's the first of the year, or, new year, new plan type of a thing. But get on a regular cadence for how you're going to talk about it, when you're going to talk about it, so it just becomes part of your company culture. Okay. I'm going to pause here for a second. I'd love you to write down or even put in the chat, if you feel comfortable, what are a couple action items that you're going to take? If we say it out loud or we write it down, we tend to be more apt to follow through on those action items. So I'm going to pause for just a minute so you can think about what should you do, or what's a next step you could take. Great. All right. I know we're going to open it up to questions in a moment. So I'm just going to share a couple other resources that you'd have available to yourself through Purple Ink. The first is we do have a monthly e-newsletter. This is not meant only for HR professionals, but it's really meant from leadership, management, any type of a kind of employee experience type of a topic. So our newsletter highlights some free webinars that we provide. It highlights resources. It highlights things that you could or should be thinking about maybe in any given month or time frame of the year. We also have a Joy Powered Workspace podcast. And so this is a podcast that tend to be about 30 to 45 minutes, are short. And again, just highlighting kind of important topics of our workplace. And so we talk about maybe creative benefits. We talk about things like planning for upcoming retirements. So just another way to get resources for some of the questions that often come up in our organization. And then we do also have a number of books that we highlight that are on our website on ways that, again, you can kind of bring in different leadership or different philosophies into your organization. So you can find those on our Purple Ink website or our Joy Powered website, and would love to stay connected to you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I do know that Becky has things like the SHRM credit and other things that may be helpful for you to have, but I also want to open it up to any questions that may have arisen in our conversation.
Perfect. Thank you, Courtney. And it looks like Wade had a hand up. Wade, did you have a question you wanted to ask? We'll give you a minute. You can feel free to raise your hand again or drop it in the chat. I know it went up just a few minutes ago, so it's possible that it was answered in between, or if you're like me, you forgot what you were going to ask in the moment. So, thank you, Courtney, so much. I was loving seeing the action items getting dropped in the chat. So Trista, maybe I think I don't have the chat in front of me, said signed up for Simple IRA while on the call. So that's amazing. Thanks again, Courtney. Always appreciate the amazing information. Before we close today, y'all, I do want to make sure that everybody's tapped in to all of our youth worker well-being services, because these are additional ways to continue to just increase the overall well-being, as Courtney mentioned a few times, right? This overall well-being picture. So through our project, we provide organizational and individual level services, organizational services including telemedicine, virtual mental health services, organizational grant funding. We're going to talk about that one. Individual access to peer support groups and organizational access to peer support groups. And then our Emerging Leaders of Color Fellowship for individual youth workers. If you are not already enrolled in our telemed services, this is what that looks like. Your organization becomes eligible through an enrollment and eligibility process. Organization contact enrolls all W-2 employees, which does include part-time employees. And then those employees then have the ability to enroll their household members. This is a really, really great way to boost benefits at no cost to the organization or the employee in a way that really alleviates a lot of financial and just general stress in navigating healthcare systems and costs that are associated with that. I'm not sure that we've talked about this one before on this series, but because of the timing of this, I do want to draw attention to another employee development and retention strategy through our Emerging Leaders of Color Fellowship. This is a 6-month, no-cost paid professional development opportunity that provides current or aspiring leaders of color with the skills and network necessary to grow and thrive at youth agencies throughout the state. We have a fellow on the call today, actually, I saw. The application does close this Friday at midnight, so that's why I want to draw attention to that today. You can look up more information, access the application online. This next cohort starts in January. Application closes Friday. And then there'd be additional details about this cohort and other future cohorts online as well. Another thing I want to draw attention to is a way that we support organizational well-being through our grant opportunities. These range from $5,000 to $20,000 each for building community in the workplace, creating cultures that value employee identity, really creating that safety, belonging, and empowerment within the organization. Again, want to draw attention to this because it's another great way to potentially find the dollars to look at that policy creation, those strategies, benefits, best practices that drive your organization. That will also be available online and in the slide deck when you get it. Peer support groups are drop-in youth worker available opportunities led by licensed behavioral health specialists from Hope Haven Psychological Resource. Each session is virtual and confidential with the idea of really just having a place to connect and share experience, either topic related or best practice or practice-oriented sessions. There is no cost to attend these, and any youth worker can join as they need. We also have that same content, but for organizations to book a team session that you might need to just address a tailored specific topic for something that your team is experiencing in real time. So organizational leaders can book a one-time session for support there as well. Of course, we hope that you enjoyed your session today. We know you did. And so we hope you come see us again. So in October, we'll be back with legal and identity protection for employees. There are additional topics coming in 2026. And then I also want to remind you that maybe this is your first time coming and you're like, darn, I missed, this was great. What were the other ones? You can access recorded webinars with the link that I've dropped there. I'll drop it in the chat here in a second as well. But just like this one, anything that we've done previously will be housed online with our other resources in our Knowledge Center. So you can access that recording, share it with others, or catch up to the ones you missed as well. To ensure you're fully connected with everything that IYI offers, we're doing a lot. We're just one project, and there's lots of other humans do amazing things in our organization. But make sure you are tapped in and connected with your regional outreach manager. That's the person in your community that can open doors to opportunities or foster collaboration or connect you to resources right there in your specific community. As we conclude, I just want to say again, thank you for being with us today. Your feedback does drive what we do, so please take a few minutes, grab the phone, scan that QR code, and make sure you let us know what you thought of today's presentation. When you do complete that survey, you will then be redirected to your certificate of completion. We always appreciate your impact and choice to learn alongside us with the Youth Worker Wellbeing Project. Here's your SHRM code. We saved it for the end, so you hung out with us. So make sure you have that down again. That will also be up in your follow-up materials as well. And on behalf of the team here at Indiana Youth Institute and the Youth Worker Wellbeing Project, I want to say thanks again for showing up today and every day for our Indiana youth. We want to remind you that you are not alone, so please reach out to our Youth Worker Wellbeing Project team anytime. While you are here doing amazing things for Indiana youth, we are here to support you. So thank you for being here today and have a wonderful day.